happiness, sorrow, anger, jealousy, excitement, impatience, pride, lust, fear. These are all different emotions that we experience in different combinations, for variable times, in multiple patterns, in response to various stimuli, but sometimes isolated out of the blue. For a majority of the time, we do not choose to feel these emotions. We are faced with stimuli, which, in turn, results in feeling a certain way. Take these examples. You're hanging out with one of your friends, during when a mutual acquaintance turns to you and says, "You look good today." Invariably, most of us, regardless of volition, will feel the warmth of happiness. You're at work when your boss comes up to you and says, "The performance you're putting in just isn't quality. You suck. By the way, your mom's ugly." It would be pretty normal to feel a combination of fear for your job and anger towards your boss for taking a personal jab at your mother. These emotions do not disappear the moment you turn away or are faced with another situation, unless the stimuli provided by the next scene is greater than the one you previously experienced. Another way of looking at this is that we carry our emotions with us about the day, regardless of whether the present moment contributed to the emotional state that you're currently experiencing. These emotions can play an influential role in how you decide your next action. That burning flame of anger and jealousy inside of you after an argument you previously had with a loved one may accidentally rear its head when you verbalize an inappropriate response when your boss is providing feedback. Or you could be drunk with excitement after learning you've achieved another goal during when you cross the street without looking both ways. Point being, it doesn't matter if the emotion is positive or negative. They can still distract us from living in the present moment. They can still demand that we cognitively provide them attention, as we risk detracting said attention from the current world around us. Thus, I beseech you to try to look at things this way. Emotions are drugs. Many of us have experienced different psychoactive substances. The most common substances experienced include alcohol, just technically ethanol, through spirits, beer, wine; caffeine, typically via coffee, but other methylxanthine-like stimulants can be ingested from teas; nicotine, which is most likely through tobacco products; and cannabinoids via cannabis. If you've experienced any of these substances at some point in time in your life, you can think back to decisions or thoughts that you've experienced while under the influence, and recognize that you may not have conducted the same actions or thoughts, or thought the same thoughts, if you were not under this influence. You can perceive the same thing with emotions. You can think back to a time during when you've been angry or sad, and you conducted an action or thought a thought that you would not have otherwise done. So, how is this relevant? I feel that looking at things this way is very important because we can easily get carried away with your emotions. Sure, you've heard that phrase plenty of times, or maybe experienced it yourself. Getting carried away with your emotions. If we start perceiving our emotions as drugs that can change the way we think and act, we are much more cautious of the things that we do while we are under the influence. Now, I'm not saying that emotions are good or bad things, okay? I feel that giving the terms good and bad are a rather simplistic way of viewing different states of thinking. I merely ask you all to be a little more cognizant of your current state of mind when you are experiencing emotions. I'm also not saying that emotions are vestigial organs, as there are times during when you appreciate your mind providing you with these emotional responses. You want to feel joy with the embrace of a loved one. You want to feel fear when you hear the rumbling of thunder and see the flash of lightning while you're walking outside. These are all programmed responses our brains automatically provide us to experience based on certain stimuli. These program responses can also be shared across multiple species. Plenty of animals experience fear when they see a snake. Some of them, such as a mongoose, may also experience anger, influencing them to try to kill the snake. I want you all to realize that emotions are another aspect of the way our minds work, which may equip us to respond accordingly, or they may influence to do what we later may perceive as wrong. This leads me back to one of my key points. Monitor your mind. Be aware of what emotions your mind is constantly enforcing. Monitor your mind. Recognize that someone does not make you feel bad. Your brain tells you to feel bad based on a stimulus. It is up to you to give that emotional response any credibility. You don't have to cave into a strong emotion because your brain demands you experiencing it. I'm not saying that it's possible to completely sever yourself from the influence of emotions. I'm sure even the strongest of meditators still feel emotions and its associated influence. See, if a loved one passes away, you're going to feel sad. That's just how things can be. But please realize that there are many situations during when you do not need to be influenced by emotions. I'm not saying you can easily snap out of it. But see, the next best step towards mastering your mind and becoming a better person starts with recognizing that your emotions can be a drug with which your mind doses you, for better or for worse. To ingest it is your choice.